Let's now tell you that the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal in Lagos will on Monday deliver judgments in the suits challenging the election of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the Labour Party's governorship candidates Gbadebo Rhodes Vival, and the People's Democratic Party's governorship candidate Olajide Adediran, popularly known as Jandor, are challenging the victory of Sanwo-Olu at the March 18 governorship election. And this morning, a political analyst, Nelson Ekujimi, joins me from Lagos, and also News Central's Bernard Akede joins me on the news from the courtroom for more on this. Nelson, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you around. It's going to be a major top decision that will be handed down by the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal in Lagos. What are your expectations as regards the litigations or the petitions, if I could put it that way, handed down by the opponents, and how that would affect the eventual verdicts that will be given by the judges?
Well, thank you very much for having me. The fact of the matter is that we all know that when aggrieved persons go to courts usually, or in their tradition, which is to uphold the law, because the duty of the judiciary is to interpret the law. The judiciary, this time the Election Petition Tribunal, will deliver judgment in consonance with the available facts and evidence provided by the petitioners to prove that they were wronged. And the court will also look at the provisions of the law to see if their petitions aligns with what the law stipulates. And in that case, the court will give a judgment. So we don't expect anything different from judgment based on these parameters. And that the parameters are: one, there must be available evidence to controvert the declaration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu as the duly elected governor of Lagos State. Then also, there must be evidence to prove that INEC, the first respondent, as I believe in this matter, didn't conduct that election in substantial compliance with the Electoral Act. If you are unable to prove any of this, or you are not able to provide evidence to substantiate that I was wronged, results declared for me were not my results, the results were tampered with. If you are relying on any other thing apart from this, then I'm sure the justices will do the needful as usual.
Like you said, it has to do with the integrity and the validity of the petitions being tendered by the litigants. And one of them has to do with the litigation around the viability of results that was being tendered in terms of the governor now, that's Babajide Sanwo-Olu's GCE results that were said not to have been valid. The claim was that the results he tendered were not valid and they are fake. So when we have issues like this being tendered, of course, we know what happened with the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal, where the judges said that issues like this are intra-party infractions that necessarily does not directly affect the outcome of the election. So when we have litigations going this way, do you think it will have any attendant effect on the judgments that will be given by the judges?
The fact of the matter, again, I must tell you, is that if you have alleged, we are all witnesses to the recent judgment with regards to Governor Peter Umba of Enugu State, where the litigants challenge his results, his NYC certificate has been fake, and the judges said, if you say a result is fake, then provide us with the genuine one so that we'll be able to know. So that judgment should be instructive in whatever we are doing. And again, don't forget, if you are challenging the eligibility of a candidate to contest an election, that is purely a pre-election matter. The Governorship Election Tribunal is meant to address what happened on election day, how the election was conducted. Any other matter before the election it's outside of its purview. You also recognize that the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal gave a ruling with regards to the issue of the double nomination of the vice president. That this issue is a matter that will have come to other courts before the Election Petition Tribunal. And in that case, the court struck out, that grounds of petition. So I don't expect anything different from this. If you are alleging that somebody's result was fake, then I think you need to summon the issuing authority to come and substantiate. And I don't know whether they did that, but as much as one understands the law, this has nothing to do with the election. It's about the eligibility of the candidate, and you'll be expecting that the judges will give the judgment in line with the provisions of the law. Those are provisions of the law that I've just quoted, even though I've not cited the particular section of the law. If you are challenging the eligibility of a candidate, that is a pre-election matter and not an election matter. That
all right, Nelson, Nelson, I'll come back to you. Let's just quickly have Bernard talk to us this morning. Hello, Bernard.
Yeah, good morning, Lekan. I can hear you very well.
Yes, it's a pleasure to see and hear you too. So I'd like you to just give us an overview of the situation at the court premises where the judges would have to give their final verdict, as been expected, of course, of the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal.
All right, Lekan, I'll start from the surrounding environment. Now, leading to the court premises here, for those who are familiar with Ikeja and its environs, all the way from General Hospital area down to the High Court is littered, if I may use that language, with police officers, armed police officers, heavily secured in this particular area. If you have no business here, you probably wouldn't want to be in this area. Now, getting into the courtroom, only press officials and lawyers and specific persons were allowed into the courtroom. You can see around me, it's not a very big courtroom per se, and that's why they're trying to limit the crowd that's here. The camera is swinging around now, so you have a feel of what exactly it is I'm talking about. Lawyers dressed in traditional white and black suits, all around. The court proceedings were supposed to start by 9 a.m. It's a bit past 9 now, so we're waiting for it to commence. Now, just to my left, the two gentlemen sitting beside me are some familiar figures, so to speak. Now, the gentleman in grey, who has his head bent, is apparently the APC chairman for Lagos State. That's Cornelius. The name skips me now. And then the person to his immediate, to the next person to the left in white is the former Commissioner of Police, Hakeem Odumosu. Two of them are familiar faces in the courtroom. And I'm expecting that as time goes on, more familiar faces will appear in the courtroom as the proceedings eventually will commence. We're expecting it to be quite interesting. We're not expecting anything out of place. And we do hope that it goes on as swiftly as possible at the end of the day.
I'm not sure if you probably would have engaged any of the people right there at the courtroom, of course, those who are actually waiting the judgment, to know how they feel, what their expectations are, most especially when it comes to the litigations that were being tendered and what the actual judgments might likely be. Of course, parties or people representing the different parties will be hoping that the judgment will sway in their favor, but also we want to also understand how they feel about what the eventual outcome would be, tying that to other outcomes that we've seen from other states and, of course, what obtained at the presidential level.
Well, we've tried to engage a couple of people inside the courtroom. None of them have, obliged us speaking. Of course, the lawyers wouldn't speak. And then the gentleman beside me, who I just mentioned their names now, also haven't spoken to us just yet. They declined speaking to press officials. Maybe they eventually will later. We'll try again to see if that would happen. But at the moment, well, nobody has spoken to us just yet. Like other proceedings that we've seen concerning the election petition, well, everybody's eager to get what the results would be and what the judge eventually would pronounce. For now, all fingers are just crossed, basically. And, people basically are wondering, does every ruling have to go through the court? But well, for now, again, fingers are crossed. We're waiting to see or to hear what the judge's ruling would be at the end of the day.
Well, Bernard, thank you so much for giving us the head up. Definitely we'll continue to keep tabs with you to get details of what the proceedings or the final verdict would be. It's nice to know that you're there anyway. Let's see if we can go back to Nelson. Nelson, are you there?
I'm here with you.
Okay, so just to wrap things up. All right, beautiful. Just quickly wrap things up now. Earlier on, you talked about the fact that when it comes to INEC and when it comes to the final judgments or the position of the judges, when there are cases that are said to be before elections, they probably might not have jurisdiction over it, if I did get you correctly, or maybe post-election
Yes,
matters.
absolutely.
So now I just want to quickly point this out to you. Now, the APC was accused of not complying with the INEC timetable and schedule of activities for the 2023 general elections, which stipulated that all political parties must give 21 days notice to INEC before the conduct of the primaries. That's according to one of the litigants in terms of what their petition contained. Now, is that also an infraction that you will consider before the election proper, and that probably might be a viable legal tender, or sorry, a viable case that is being tendered that the judges might want to premise their judgment on?
Well, again, I want to take you back to the Presidential Election Tribunal judgment, where the APC council raised objection to the eligibility of the Labour Party candidate standing for election because, according to him, he didn't meet up with the provisions of the Electoral Act, that as at the date he vied for the nomination of the Labour Party, he was still a member. He had just left the PDP, and as at that time, the Labour Party had submitted its list of its membership registered to INEC. You saw what we all listened to the judges, that only the party itself can query, its membership. That a non-party member has no jurisdiction, and using legal terms, they call them meddlesome interloper. That you are not a member of this party, so you don't have a right to ask about the membership of that party. And that was one area where the APC council lost, in the final judgment, that ground was dismissed, that objection was dismissed. So in this case, if you are saying the APC did not submit its list of candidates, or maybe they didn't meet up with the INEC guidelines, it is not for you, who is not a member of APC or who is not an INEC staff, to come to the court and say, look, this party cannot stand for the election because they didn't meet up with our guidelines. That is the responsibility of the APC. So what we have seen with regards to that grounds of the petition is what we call a frivolous petition. We have seen a number of cases where people just go to court to waste the time of the court. Somebody goes to court and say, I was robbed in Lagos, and the next thing you are asking, where in Lagos? Because Lagos is a generic, a language, is a generic place. And the person said, no, just agree that I was robbed. What sort of a case is that? How can you be able to adduce evidence to substantiate such a case? That's a nebulous allegation. So in this case, raising allegation about the party not meeting up to INEC guidelines, it's outside the purview of the Labour Party or the PDP to do.
Okay.
The court judgments, previous court judgments, are instructive to guide us in this line.
Okay, Nelson, thank you so much for talking to us. We'll just continue to wait and see what the eventual outcome would be in Lagos, as we hope that the decision will be given in earnest to put paid to what obtains in Lagos in terms of the validly elected governor of Lagos State. Thank you so much, Nelson, for your presence.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.